Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, that's not actually true at all. This is the first time you've been with me. I'm just so used to saying that. It is sometimes guest host of Beer with Geeks, sometimes guest host of Supergirl TV Talk, co-host of the Marvel Alliance and the Fans Without Borders podcast. It is Brent. How are you today?
I am doing wonderful. I am really excited to be here. Bucket list item for me. I've been waiting for the call to help out with Beer with Geeks for an episode. So
wait.
I was very excited.
Wait, is this your first Beer with Geeks episode?
It is.
Oh my gosh, Brent, this is so exciting. I thought you had done an episode with Frank without me. Oh man.
No, I think we talked about it once, but forever ago. But no, there's been plenty of Supergirl TV talk, but now I'm like, the major leagues, the Beer with Geeks.
Yes. Welcome. And we're going to talk Spider-Man.
Yes.
This is so exciting. I'm so excited that you're here. Brent has been, gosh, I think you've been listening for a long time, right?
Yeah, long time.
Yeah.
I basically discovered the show around when I discovered Supergirl TV Talk.
Okay.
I don't remember which was first, but I was there at Supergirl TV Talk to hear you make the Martian Manhunter call. So it's been at least that long, and around that time frame, I've been a listener to Beer with Geeks.
That is so exciting. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. You're a great host of your own shows. Actually, since you're new to this show, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your shows before we start?
I'm a co-host of Marvel Alliance. It's a weekly show where we pretty much talk all things Marvel, be that the television shows, the movies, comic books, whatever we feel like talking for the week. And then Fans Without Borders, where we talk Marvel, sure, but we also will talk Star Wars. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about a Book of Boba Fett when that wraps up. We'll talk DC when those projects come around. We'll have a Batman review in a few months. And so we just kind of talk all of it, and that's a bi-weekly show.
That's great. And I've said this before. I've said this on Supergirl, and I'll say it here. I love Fans Without Borders because it is exactly that. Everybody just gets along for the most part. And and you can just like it all. And I think that's really wonderful. And so you are not a drinker on Beer with Geeks.
I'm not. That's always been the big flaw with my goal here. I'm not.
That's okay. But, I don't like to make people uncomfortable when they come to visit our show. So I am drinking a water. I'll have you know. I am not drinking a beer. I am pure water tonight. And so we're just moving on. Is your water good? Mine's fine.
It's very tasty.
That's great. Yeah. It's tasty. Maybe you should get your water checked if it's tasty. Anyway, we're here to talk Spider-Man No Way Home, the third in the MCU's Spider-Man lineup. You've been on it's just before the show. You've been on a few reviews, obviously, of this movie already. This is the one. How many times have you seen it?
I'm going to say I've only seen it 3 times. Real life has conspired against me to get more viewings.
3 times in, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's been out for 6 days.
I saw it Thursday, Friday, and Sunday.
That's awesome. I'm so jealous of your life. I wish
there was a scenario where there could have been at least one more in that time frame, but it's a busy time of year, and when unexpected things happen on top of a busy time of year, you're just thankful to get 3 in.
I was thankful to get one in. Like I can't even
There you go.
I barely snuck it in. Like it was amazing. Like I'm lucky that the theater is literally 5 minutes from my place of employment, and like I could and there was a show 20 minutes after I got out of work, so I bought a ticket. I grabbed a coworker who we do our own podcast actually for work together, and so we. That is not on the Thought Bubble Audio Network, and but I grabbed her and I was like, "Come on, we're going to see Spider-Man." She was like, "Yes, let's go." She had to call her husband and be like, "So, I'm seeing Spider-Man without you. I'm sorry."
Well, this is where you say you're not in the Marines, and you will leave someone behind.
That's correct.
There's a movie to be seen.
There's a Marvel movie, and more specifically, there's a Spider-Man movie.
That's
to
right.
be seen. So, I loved it. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you saw it 3 times, you decided to go back 2 more times.
Fantastic. Everything I realistically wanted and not something I thought was going to happen, but really didn't want at the same time. So it's like they just tailored it for me. It was so beautiful.
Yep. I think it got tailored for a lot of people, and I don't actually really want to dance around anything. So we're just going to talk spoilers from here on out, No Way Home. So if you haven't seen it, stop the podcast and come back and listen at another time. But we both loved it. You should definitely go see it. And I know Frank will like it too, which I think is important here. Frank will love it when he gets around to seeing it. So spoilers from here on out. Obviously the elephant in the room. We got three Spider-Man in the room. We got Tobey Maguire's back, Andrew Garfield's back, Tom Holland's back, obviously. You knew they were coming, right?
Yeah.
I had seen one of the leaked photos by accident months ago, and it definitely wasn't doctored what I was looking at. So I was like,
Did you see the leak of Andrew where he was kneeling down, leaning on a rail?
I actually saw a leak of Andrew and Toby together in costume without their masks on near the rail.
I have looked some of that up after seeing the movie.
Yep.
But the only one I actually saw prior was one of Andrew.
Okay. So you at least knew that he was back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you think did that take away from your enjoyment of the film?
I mean, so I went with my wife and my good friend Brock, and they both pretty much knew the same thing. My dad went with us, and he didn't know anything. And so there is a part of me jealous of the experience that he had. He knew Spider-Man. I don't think he even knew Doctor Strange. And yes, I'm a little jealous of that, but at the same time, I'm never going to give up following the rumors, following the trailers. I do think the Scoopers went a bit too far, but I think that the people who follow the Scoopers push them to go that far. So, I mean, it's questionable who ultimately is the flaw. But, when you went and saw Avengers Endgame, you knew Spider-Man was going to be back, right? You knew the Guardians of the Galaxy were going to be back. It's all a question of how they do it and the execution. That's ultimately the payoff. And for that, this movie still delivered, and quite literally with its own version of Portals, and it still delivered for me. And so, yeah, I knew it, but that did not diminish the smile on my face watching them come through.
Yeah, I actually think it added to my enjoyment of the film knowing that they were in it, because I expected them to be, just based on everything before seeing leaked images or any, Madness of the Multiverse, No Way Home. It just kind of felt that it was going to go in that direction. And so knowing they were in the film, I sat back from minute one going, I'll see them at some point, so I'll just enjoy the ride up until that moment. I didn't expect them to be in the whole third act of the film.
Yeah, I had heard rumors that ran the gamut of 5-minute cameos to 40 minutes. And I'm very happy that it was, I don't know the exact time, but it was much closer to that 40-minute mark than it was the 5 minutes. They were significant parts of the movie, and in all the best ways, giving us time to sit with them, for them to just talk, the three Peters just talking and comparing notes. I could watch a 2-hour movie of that.
Same. And I think that Feige especially knew that's what people were garnering for, and not necessarily like a cameo is fine, but each of these characters has an arc that carries through from their previous films, and I think that is what is masterful about this film. Then we could talk about them first, and then talk about the rest of the movie, because I don't want to diminish the rest of how good the movie is, just because of these cameos. But so you have Tobey Maguire, who has been Spider-Man the longest, obviously, and the way he portrays Peter, as soon as he understands the importance and significance of his role as Peter Parker, right? His thing is I sense that the Peter of your world needs me. And that's huge, right? That's Toby's Peter is almost completely selfless. That's the kind of person that he is, right? Even going back to Spider-Man 1 from 2002, Green Goblin is why do you do what you do? And he's because it's right. That's his, it's the right thing to do. And that is his through line through everything. And that goes right up until the moment where Peter 1, Tom Holland, is going to kill Green Goblin, and Peter 2, Tobey Maguire, stops him, because that's the right thing to do. That's the kind of person that he is. Tobey has been in that place twice, right? His history. He's been there with Uncle Ben's killer, and he's been there with Sandman. Right, he nearly kills Sandman in Spider-Man 3 because he feels that because of, again, the Uncle Ben connection. So you can trace almost everything bad that's happened in Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker's life to Norman Osborn, and he still stops him. That's the progression of his the completion of his full arc. I love that. It's great.
Absolutely. And earlier in the movie, then when they're just trying to come up with the different cures for everybody, and the Peters are all doing the science thing together, Peter 2 says, I think I have the formula figured out for Norman. I'm going to make that. And he looks at Tom Holland's Peter and says, cure everybody. That's the goal, right? And so even there, that just kind of shows his goal is to cure everybody. He doesn't want anyone to die. And really none of the Peters do. It's just the Tom Holland Peter has literally just experienced the worst loss of his life. And that's saying something considering what happened with Endgame. But for him personally, the death of Aunt May is the worst loss of his life. And he was blinded by rage. And I was very thankful that the other Peters, predominantly Maguire, but both of them played their part, were able to snap him out of that so they could administer the cure to Norman Osborn.
Yep, I agree with that. And there's Peter 2 knows what Peter 1 has gone through because of Uncle Ben, but also Norman almost killed Aunt May. He almost killed Mary Jane. There's a really long line of stuff that because of Norman, Harry dies. That tries to kill him and dies. It's always because of Norman all the way through. And so for Peter to cure everybody, I've thought about this for a long time, meaning that he died, he partially blames Norman's death on himself. I probably could have found a way to save him, and I couldn't. And so this is him saving Norman in a way that he couldn't, back 20 years ago. And I really like that. I love that about his character. Switching over to Andrew, who I think is the GOAT. He's just so good. When he gets plucked, he says he got dark, right? He goes from this. Yeah. He's in a dark place. Maybe the Spider-Man of the Venom Morbius world, the Sony world, right? Because there's that scene in the Morbius one of the Morbius trailers that has Spider-Man on a poster and it says murderer across the poster. It's Tobey Spider-Man in that
from the PS4 game.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
just to really make it,
nice.
Extra. But oh my gosh, I've said for years, way before No Way Home was ever even talked about that. Andrew's a good Spider-Man. he'd be great to be the Spider-Man of the Sony universe and let Tom Holland play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everybody wins.
Yep.
And now I kind of feel like everybody else agrees with me now. So I'm like, can we just make it happen, please? Because like, I know there's rumors and stuff. Rumors have been flying all weekend, but I'm like, can we just make it happen? Just get it done, guys.
What I found so interesting about Andrew's portrayal of Peter 3 is that he clearly still loves the character, and he was trying really, really hard to like show like I know the movies I was in were not the best of the bunch, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't understand the character and he doesn't have a love for it. Because he was a remarkably good Spider-Man and Peter. I loved both of them. And tonally, his movies do fit right into Venom and Morbius and all of these things. It is clearly the same world, and I would love to see him come back in some way. But I loved their interaction, the three of them, where it's Andrew's Peter that's down on himself. He's like, no, I'm not as good as you guys. And they're like, no, you are as good as Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland.
Amazing.
We promise. Yeah, you're amazing. Yeah, you are as good as us. In fact, like, he's actually might be the best of the three in his own way. So I love that. And, in the completion of, like, not, you see this everywhere. It's not exactly revelatory here, but, he couldn't save Gwen, but he thought long and hard about how to save her, how he could have saved her. And so for him to take that and save MJ was as important for MJ because, saved her life, but she saved his life in that moment by actually being in trouble.
I love the emotion on his face after he makes that save.
Oh gosh.
And they just hung on it for a few seconds. And I know in the past, a lot of people have criticized Marvel for cutting those moments short and telling a joke. And while I don't necessarily agree with that to the extent that a lot of the criticisms go, there is some truth to it. And here, in really this movie, several times they let those moments hang and sit, and they just focus on Peter 3's face as, he's starting to tear up, and he's like, I'm okay. It's like, I just need a minute. I'll get right back in there, but just give me a moment, because he figured it out. He figured out how to make the save he couldn't make before. Beautiful moment.
Yep. Gorgeous for all of them. This whole movie is about second chances, right? Because that's the whole idea. Save everybody. But it's a second chance for Toby to save the people he didn't get to save previously. It's the second chance for Andrew to prove himself and that he can be Spider-Man. He can save people. He can save himself. It's second chance for Norman and for Otto and for all these people over and over and over again. And I just think that lesson is so important for the world even right now. Because we're very much you messed up once, you're out of here kind of society right now. And right. I think a second chances go a long way. And it takes a lot to see something as serious as like what some of these characters have done to these Spider-Men, and for them to still be like, no, your life is worth saving. That's really powerful. It's really important, and I can't really overstate that. And so I just thought that was lovely. Let's talk about Aunt May, who gets a really big moment in this movie. She's the one that delivers. With great power comes great responsibility. How did you feel about that?
It's an interesting twist. I kind of felt like this is the movie. This was one of my predictions. It didn't happen. It's like, this is the movie we will get a definitive, true Uncle Ben reference. And okay, technically we did. They just came from Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield referring to their Uncle Bens. But so I feel like there was an opportunity for them to do that. But looking at it, I heard it said that this movie completes, and not said official, just analysis of the movie, completes the origin for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Because Spider-Man is not Spider-Man until he's been told, with great power comes great responsibility, and he learns that lesson. And while he has shown several times how serious he does take responsibility, you could make an argument that he has now truly been taught the lesson by losing that loved one, by losing his parental figure and being told the line. And not only did he lose the parental figure, but it was at least partially his fault because of his hand in bringing Norman Osborn across the barriers anyway, by messing up the spell, or by his contributions. Not entirely his fault, I would argue, but he at least had a hand in it. Mm-hmm. And it's different, but honestly, it really worked well for me. I really liked it.
Yeah, I did too. And I think it, there's so much emphasis and importance placed on Uncle Ben, and May is really kind of left in the dust so much. Not that she's not central to Peter's life, but she's like center left to Peter's life, where you know, like Ben holds that importance in his martyrdom. And so I love that she's his focus and he's her focus, and he doesn't need her death to learn the lesson, but he needs to understand that even in what she would even consider in that moment a sacrifice, like that like her great power is taking care of him. Her power is protecting him and helping him to grow into the person that she is, and that she took that responsibility very seriously, and now it's his turn to do that. And even in her death, you got to do the right thing. You have to save these people. It's not about revenge. And I think that's ultra important. And I love that. I truly love that it was her. I don't know if it was always Marvel's intention to kind of do 5 movies of Spider-Man where he's like built up to this giant thing, only to go to be basically back to basics. You know, like your cruddy apartment, your tailor-made suit at the end, you know. But that's the Peter Parker cycle to me, where he does have a lot going for him, and it all comes crashing down because he forgets the important lesson of power and responsibility, and he has to rebuild that cycle, as we all do. We always forget the importance of like the power that we hold, and we have to kind of relearn that every so often. And I think Peter understands power and responsibility from Civil War. That conversation with Tony is really enlightening in what Peter believes. But
yes, I love that scene when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and the bad things happen. They happen because of you. That is the great power line, just modified. And I think you're right. I don't necessarily know that they always knew they were going to go this way. In fact, I am fully convinced that this was not the original movie for following up on Far From Home. But then as soon as they realized they could start getting Toby and Andrew to sign on, and Alfred Molina and William Dafoe and Jamie Foxx, like when they realized they could pull this off, well, they made a pivot that it would have been a tragic mistake not to make. Because I know everybody's saying we got to get more Spider-Verse, live action Spider-Verse movies, and I'm right there with them that I would love to see it, but I don't like right now. My brain is at, I just saw what might be a once in a lifetime event, and if I'm wrong, if I'm proven wrong, wonderful. But I'm enjoying it with that frame of mind right now, and so I'm glad they made that pivot.
Me too. And truthfully, I don't need to see it again. I think that it did everything it needed to do. Where Peter, his 3 movies are really about the search for a mentor, right? You know, like you know, it was Tony, then it kind of was Mysterio, but that didn't turn out so well for reasons. And he was kind of Nick Fury and all of that stuff. And it turns out that he had a mentor the whole time. It was May. And she was really his guiding light. And he finally understands that. But then it's himself or other versions of himself that teach him to believe in himself. It's kind of like the self-id, ego, super-ego pep talk that he ends up having with himself existentially. And I love that, because he is finally who he's supposed to be, as much as he can be. And that is, I think, all coupled when he shows up at the donut shop at the end and he doesn't reveal himself to MJ and Ned, because he, at the end of Spider-Man 1, Tobey Maguire rejects Mary Jane, right? And he says, nope, just as a friend. And, you know, and he says, this is my gift. This is my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man. That's this moment for Peter 1. Right?
Yeah, it's the moment where he realizes if he tells them who he is and tries to get them back in his life, he's starting what he will view as a cycle over again of putting their lives in danger.
That's
and
right.
He was going to do it right up until he saw that Band-Aid on MJ's forehead.
Yep. And it is that moment that he realizes that this is also great power, great responsibility. It's not just about protecting the universe in which you are so good at now, fighting aliens, but it's about, it's about protecting the people in your life. That's why you wear the mask. It's all those things. And, and I just freaking loved all of it. Let's talk about the villains, and not villains. Electro's. We got a new updated Electro. Much better than Spider-Man 2. Though I really did like the blue. Truthfully, I thought he looked very cool in the blue.
I never mind the look of it. I think it's clear Jimmy Fox didn't like the look of it.
Yep.
I feel like that's probably the first thing they said is you don't have to be blue. But I like the changes they made to him. I think they work while still keeping the continuity that he's the same person.
Yep, I enjoyed that. I did not expect Thomas Hayden Church and Yvonne Reese to be back playing Sandman and Lizard in the capacity that they did. I just thought they would show up at the end, or they would be muted characters, but we got a lot of Sandman in this movie. And I appreciated it a lot.
And I kind of questioned it because during the trailers and stuff, and I didn't hear anything confirming either of them were back. And so I thought, well, maybe they had to recast or whatever. And okay, well, it sounds like there was a lot of ADR used. And I guess especially with Thomas Hayden Church, he couldn't be on set. And so a lot of ADR was used for his stuff. And then there's actually a shot apparently from Spider-Man 3 the end.
When he turns back into a human, it's a reverse shot of him melting in the tunnel from Spider-Man 3.
Right. And so, but they were a part of it. There's something just amazing. It's the original actors were a part of all of this.
All of them, right? Everybody's talking about Toby and Andrew, but I'm like, but you don't get it. It was also Sandman and Electro and Dr. Octopus and the Green Goblin, and the Lizard. And I think they weren't on set because of COVID. I think that was actually why they weren't there. So I think that's what I had heard. So they did. They just did their subs and dubs afterward, which is why their back to human shots are from their original films. But I didn't care. I thought it was well done. I loved to see them. I liked that they were very careful not to make Ock supervillain because that's so important in Spider-Man 2. But I love that this Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn is just one of the worst MCU villains that, in any universe. He's just a terrible, terrible person. And he's so good at it. I loved it. I loved it.
I love the updated look because I've never been a huge fan of the old costume. I'm glad we saw it.
Yep.
But for me, it's show it, establish continuity, and move on, and that's what they did. And William Dafoe, his Green Goblin, just skyrockets up in that top tier of MCU villains now because technically not only does he have this movie to draw upon but he has the villainy from Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire because it's, it's now truly connected. And it just... for me, Green Goblin, I don't know. I'll die on the hill that Green Goblin is Spider-Man's biggest enemy. Specifically,
me too.
Osborn.
I will die on that hill with you. Absolutely.
And so, him being the one to kill Aunt May, him being the one to put Peter to this test, to drive him to the point where he almost commits a murder, it's just right. It's just right. And William Dafoe is so good as Green Goblin. That was one of those things where I was like, yes, I would love to see an MCU Green Goblin, but man, do they have a hard comparison in front of them? And now I don't even think they should do it, honestly. A part of me is like, don't even bring in another Norman Osborn because they're screwed. They're screwed.
Nope. I'm with you. I would have loved an original Goblin, but I'm also fine being having Willem Dafoe's Goblin be such an impact. And I agree with you about the losing the outfit and the update. The original outfit has grown on me over the years, maybe nostalgia, and updated 4K. They actually light a lot of they light it in purple a lot of the time. So you do get his contrasting colors. And so it's nicer to look at now. But, I think that even Norman fulfills a bit of his own stuff, whereas, his movie with Toby is all about like the push pull between Norman and the Goblin and back and forth, and he doesn't kill Aunt May and he doesn't do the but now like he's like, no, I'm full, like I'm fully, the Goblin's fully in control, and it's like he's unspeakably evil. What I liked about ditching the mask so much is that Dafoe made his face the Goblin.
Yes.
And the way that they shot him is like, it's very angular, lots of good shadows, but he accentuates his features to be monstrous. And I just thought that was awesome to see that go down. I think this might have turned into my favorite MCU movie. And that's
a lot of people have told me that, and I get it. I won't go quite to number 1, but I've got it ranked at number 2 right now. So I get it.
Yeah, right now I have it ranked at 2, where with Winter Soldier still like at my number 1, but I really don't know what's holding. Like, I got to see it again to see if it was like the shock of everything. You got to give it more than once.
You got to give it more than once.
Yeah, but I just thought it was great. I love that we get the the little bits that you have to pick up on, like the Spider-Man pointing at one another. Was great.
Toby's back. Toby's back. Yeah, exactly. Just that whole story there with his back and from at the end of Spider-Man 2, and the meta jokes in it were amazing. They were fully intended,
and I don't think that they overdid them either. Like, I thought there was like just enough meta for me to be in it without them. I feeling like they winked at the audience too much. Right. And I thought that was really important. Let's talk about Ned. Actually,
okay.
When we talk about these things, how do you feel about Ned having some magic, some tingly fingers?
I think it's interesting. I watched that. I'm like, I don't know how people are going to feel about this because Stephen Strange really struggled to make the portals work. And then the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, he did say that his grandma said that they have magic in their family and that he was feeling some tingles in his fingers. And then he got the ring sling. And unlike Stephen Strange, Ned has always been more of a believer in the fantastical. He has always been more ready to accept it than Stephen ever was. And so it's not like he controlled the portals so much. I mean, I think we saw that it wasn't exactly a controlled effort, but that he was even able to tap into it is I hope they come back to it. And Doctor Strange clocked it. He realized he made that portal. And so I really hope that something comes of that in the future.
I do too. Marvel doesn't really drop its threads. I think that's a pretty big thing that it would be odd to drop completely. But especially since, Ned has this whole conversation with Peter's 2 and 3, and he's like, "Oh, do you have a best friend?" He's like, "Yep." Tried to kill me and he died in my arms. And like, Ned's like, "Oh my God, is there another Ned Leeds out there?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's a bad guy. Like, he's Ned Leeds is the Hobgoblin. So not that I expect you to be that necessarily, but for him to be like, "I promise I'll never be a supervillain." That's a good meta joke.
And Andrew Garfield just gives him a pat on the back and like a thumbs up with yes. Like,
yeah, right.
Good job.
Good job.
Don't kill your best friend. Good.
Yeah, good.
Write that down.
But what I think is interesting is that, so like Ned says like, I will not be a supervillain. Ned doesn't know Peter anymore. And we actually don't know the path that Ned's life is going to take. And so they could weirdly wrap it back around where Ned can and could become villainous because of the absence of Peter in his life. But Peter would know him. Yeah,
I think he'd need some development to get there. Like, I don't see this Ned being a villain.
Not next movie, absolutely not. But you never know what happens in the future. So
you could take him on an arc.
You could, yeah, you could. Going back to the Stephen Strange thing, Strange's hands were also messed up.
Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, and I think that not just the belief, but I think like medically he like had an issue with some of the magic, and so that took some time for him to get over too. So, I kind of liked it. It didn't feel as shoehorned to me. It's like going off of Supergirl as Lena getting some getting some magic. It didn't. It didn't feel like that to me. I was like, I'm gonna roll with it. Let's that sounds fun. Like I like it. Tom Holland himself. We haven't really talked about him. I thought that he I think he's always been a good Spider-Man, but I think the movie actually gives him something to really bite into and work with instead of just little character bits. Like outside of his movies, he's not obviously the main focus, and so there's not tons of development available for him, but this is the movie that allows him to stretch his muscles quite a bit, and I like where he took his Peter, because all three Peters are distinctly different from one another, but enough that I go, yeah, I recognize you as Peter Parker, and I recognize you as Spider-Man, all three of you, for different reasons, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've been very happy with Tom Holland. I mean, he is my favorite Spider-Man, and he has been my favorite Spider-Man. And not to say I don't love and appreciate the others for what they bring to the role, because they are also Spider-Man. But Tom Holland, he's just the one that works the best for me. And I feel like this was by far his best performance. And I don't even think it's close. Far From Home, Homecoming, or any of the three team-up movies, I don't even think it's close to the performance that he turned in here. And it's really a testament to both the writing and his performance that, granted, we tonight have talked about the rest of it a lot more than him, but when you actually see the movie, I don't think anybody really thinks he was overshadowed. And he's standing next to a couple giants in Spider-Man history there, and he stood right there with them. And to me, that is just a testament to the performance he's done, his growth as an actor. And at this point, I was convinced going into it he was going to end up off-rolled in the Sony universe, and that he would have left. And in fact, at the very end when they were doing the spell, I was like, oh, here it goes. He's going to get chucked through the spell or through the portals by Strange. And I was very thankful to be wrong on that prediction. I'm now just hoping for more, just more Tom. And I think they can bring the scale down too. We don't need to try and match this. Let's have a movie that tones it down a bit.
I agree. And I think that, that's really the point I love by the end of the film. It is this back to basics approach. Like, he's back in New York. He's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man that you recognize. And I don't need to see other worlds. I don't need to see space. I don't need, you've had those adventures. Now it's time for you to settle in as a good old Daredevil team up, maybe.
My dream movie is now possible because of that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, what a great week. What a great week that Daredevil.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Daredevil the show was having. Yeah. Between spoilers for Hawkeye. Actually by this comes out, it'll be a few old, but so Kingpin is in Hawkeye. Matt Murdock is in Spider-Man. We're feasting. This is. Yeah.
Yes, it's I'm so close. I seriously, since Ben Affleck in 2003, I've been I need a Spider-Man Daredevil team up in live action. I love it in the comics. I love it in the 90s animated series. I need it in live action. And if you just want to really make it perfect for me, it's against the Kingpin with a little dash of the Punisher. And I'm like, can we just have the Netflix actors, please? Well, we got two of them. And I am so excited about that.
Yep, me too. There's something I particularly love about Matt Murdock being the lawyer for superheroes in some capacity. That always just makes me so happy. And I loved seeing that as a little bit here because, he knows. But Spider-Man doesn't know.
And we probably will see him pop up in how do we not see him pop up in She-Hulk, a show about a superhero lawyer?
That's
do you not
a great
bring
point.
in the other famous superhero lawyer that you've now confirmed you guys get to have in your sandbox again?
I agree.
But someday, I do want to see that project with Daredevil in the title. Disney Plus movie, I don't care.
My assumption is that he'll be an Echo, right? Because they announced,
right? Yes.
They announced Echo. She's obviously connected to the Kingpin. We're not going to resolve that story in Hawkeye in 50 minutes, and so I think that's where we're going to end up seeing Daredevil next. You know what?
It's got to be.
I'm so excited. Just one last thing. This is so brief that I want to mention before we wrap up. That
sure.
I love that Peter hacked Octavius's arms, because that's not a technology that existed in his world at the time. And so Peter, using the tools that are available to him in that moment in a way that Toby couldn't do, I loved that. I like that it separated him out in that way. I just thought that was clever, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people had clocked that red in the trailers on his tentacles and was like, oh, he's going to steal some of Spider-Man's nanotechnology and he's going to take it over. And it's like, oh, here it is. It's taking it. But no, he wasn't stealing it. It was taking over. And it was a great way to control. But even before that, for me, I really enjoyed seeing the Iron Spider legs versus the Dr. Octopus tentacles. And Otto even says like, we have competition or something like that. And just visually, it's just one of those things that's like probably not ever going to see. And here it is. Yep.
And we're giving it to you. Actually, what I didn't think I needed in my life, but it turns out I did, was Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius in the same scene having a conversation, about science, or them like acknowledging all these different villains, acknowledging the existence of one another, like Electro being like, yeah, he tried to turn everybody into a giant lizard. Not cool, man.
Right.
Like,
not cool.
Yeah,
not cool at all.
Not cool. Yeah. It's just a tree. It's just a tree, man. Just a tree. Yeah, I very much liked that. Like, we're aware of the actions of each other. These are big moments in our lives. But there's something about Norman Osborn and Dr. Octopus just like being in a room that gets my comic book jollies in a jumble. I love it.
Yep, completely agree.
We could talk about this movie for a long, long time, but I am going to be respectful of both our times because we're dads and it's time to go to bed. So tell the people where they can find you one more time.
Sure, I'm at Brent Tech Prime on Twitter. Marvel Alliance and Fans Without Borders are the two podcasts that I am a part of, so would appreciate you checking them out.
Excellent. And you can find me at TimothyPG13 on Twitter. You can find all Thought Bubble audio shows at thoughtbubbleaudio.com, beerwithgeeks.com for more Beer with Geeks content. You can also check us out in all of your favorite podcast apps and rate and review us there, of course, and email us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. We'll be talking Spider-Man more once Frank sees it. I think we'll have another I'll have another conversation with him. Because we barely scratched the surface of what is there to talk about in this movie. This was the broadest of broad strokes, because it's so good, and I can't wait to see that new classic blue and red Spider-Man suit in live action again.
So pretty.
It is so pretty. It's the shiny blue, I think, that really gets me. I love the shine. It's just so pretty. I have so many cammed photos on my iPad in my camera roll just from this movie over and over and over again. I love it so much. Anyway, that's it for us. Thanks for joining. Until next time, cheers.